So just a really quick video here. You can also use DESMOS to help you with inequalities. Okay. Now, if we do something like y and we do is greater than x, you'll see that DESMOS is going to shade our graph. And the reason is what this is saying is shade me all the places where y is bigger than x. Okay. So that would be all of these points are places where y is bigger than x. All of these points, this is where y is less than x. Okay. And if we flip it around, you'll see that it's going to shade the bottom. You'll also see that we have a dotted line here. Okay. This dotted line is because we have a less than and we do not have an equal to sign there, right? So if I go back and I put an equal, that will shade the line. If I have a less than and an equal sign, it will shade it and it will shade the hard line. Okay. And so if you see a dotted line, that means you have only a less than. If you see a solid line, that means you have a less than or equal to. Now in math, in algebra, we don't do a whole lot of graphs of inequalities like this, but one thing that we do have to learn how to do is absolute value inequalities. Okay. So we'll learn how to do a question. Obviously, we've already learned how to do it. That might look something like this is less than 6. Okay, and we would have to graph this and figure it out. But if we type it in DESMOS, you can see it's pretty much doing it all for you. Okay, it's going to tell you exactly where those points are, and it's going to shade in the middle there. Now you'll see if I make this a less than or equal to, it's going to go to a hard line here. And if I go to just a less than sign, it's going to be a dotted line. So basically your dotted lines are your open circles. Your solid lines are your closed circles. The other thing that's really cool is that if I flip this around and make it a greater than sign now, it's going to shade on the outsides of my inequalities. So just like with absolute value inequalities, you're either going to have those arrows pointing together or arrows pointing out. DESMOS will do it completely for you. Just like before, though, you're not going to be able to click on any gray dots and identify what those numbers are. So you're going to have to look very carefully at your x's and say, okay, that one's at 0. This one is at -6. And sometimes you might even get something that doesn't work out so well, right? In this case, I've got a 7, and that 7 is getting divided by 2, okay? And so you'll see that I'm over here. It's not at 0. It's not at 1. This value is actually kind of at like 1/2. This value looks like it's at -6.5. So sometimes with absolute values, because it's not going to tell you what these numbers are, it becomes a little tricky on DESMOS. But for the most part, you just type in an inequality and it'll do it for you. It's relatively straightforward, relatively easy, and definitely makes these absolute value inequalities a walk in the park.